3, 2, 1. We are live.
Oh, we got Irvin in front of the camera, behind the camera?
Yes, we do.
Hi, folks. Welcome. This is getting heavier, which is good news. That means it's getting done. It's a delay. So tonight is Ask Me Anything. I'll tell you no lies.
So post your questions in the chat.
This is, what did you say, Frick?
I said post your questions in the chat. I don't know if...
Oh, are you talking to me or are you telling
No,
me to tell them?
I'm talking to them.
Okay. Yeah, post your questions. Luther, who usually takes care of the questions, is on a boat somewhere, stuffing his face at a...
Actually, he's asleep right now.
Oh, he fell asleep. He ate so much. He's on a floating buffet somewhere in Italy?
No, Spain.
Spain. Anyway, this is our live that we try to do every second Saturday night. This is a Friday night, but that's because Frick's all screwed up for tomorrow. And this is how we help support the Purple Heart Project. If you don't know what that is, which I think everybody does, but it's something we do 6 times a year. It's a 6-day class where we bring combat wounded veterans in from all over the world, and we teach them the skills required to build a piece of furniture like it was 200 years ago. No power tools. They learn to dimension lumber. I'll highlight some stuff from some of the guys in the last class as we go through tonight. And I left them all out in the other room. We did candle boxes this time. Some of them turned out really nice. Have we have a question, Frick?
Yeah, so this one was actually, I don't see too many in the chat yet, so we'll wait there. But I did get this one by email. Just a second. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen. Okay, so this one comes from Jason. He's wondering about sawtills for his Cosman saws. He says, I made them out of oak, and I think that was a bad choice. I wonder if it's the tanning that is affecting the brass. Wonder if Rob could advise best wood choice for sawtills or ones to avoid. So I'll show you the picture.
Yeah, his left marks in his... Well, I know there are tannins in oak, as he knows. Oh, wow. Holy Toledo.
Frick, can you put that picture up?
Wow, that's really... Yeah. To be blunt, that's ugly. Now, here's what you can do to get rid of that. You can get Sandflex. I should have one right here to show you. I normally do. Of course, when I need it, I don't. Oh, here it is right here. So this is a rubber compound that has... what's the abrasive in it? I don't know. It's got some kind of an abrasive in it, and it's all the way through it, so it doesn't just wear off the surface. There's 3 different types, 3 different grits. There's a coarse, medium, and fine. You want the medium, which is the green, and by color, it goes red is coarse, the green package is medium, the yellow is fine. Get that, and it'll clean it up and make it look like new. And on brass, it works really quickly. I know I'm not answering your question just yet, but I'm getting to it. I'm just looking to see if I have one that's... I don't. Shoot, I can't even show you how well it works. Ken, can you go out there and look and see if it... oh, there's some here. I'm just trying to find a saw that's got some marks on it so I could clean them up and show them how well it works. Jake's going to go see if he can find one. It works amazingly fast. So that is pine, and that has not bothered any of them. I think your oak is your problem. What did I make the other sawtills out of? They're all made out of pine. So I've used pine in all of them just because it was the wood that it was made out of. The tool cabinet that I travel with was made out of pine, so it would be nice and light. I would think poplar, pine, maybe even cherry. Just stay away from the oaks. If you think about it, if you put anything near oak and metal, it always ends up being black. So that I'm almost positive that's just the problem. Okay, so here's an old saw. Ooh, that's original. And here's there's what the brass looks like. There's some marks on there. So if I take this, and you want to go forward and back, so you don't put scratches other than what's already in there, meaning these were sanded this way, so you want to do it that way. I'll stop short of the handle so you can see. That brings that right back to being new. And it's nice too because it will conform to the shape of the spine. Now, what are you going to do up next to your handle? If you had a split nut driver, I'll show you what that looks like. Do I have one, Jake? I don't have one. Well, normally I do. A split nut driver is a screwdriver that is shaped, there it is right here, like this. That one's been modified. And that allows you to go in and get into the two slots on either side of the bolt. And then you can just take that nut off, push the bolt out, and you can take that piece of brass out, clean it up, and put it back in. Yeah, the only downside to this is that the brass is really soft. So you got to make sure everything lines up and then don't over tighten and risk messing up those threads. That was the very first saw. That was the very first saw that I made, and that was that handle was made out of what's it called, Jake? What was the handle made out of? Corian, yeah. Which didn't work out because it was too brittle. Now, let me just, what did I want them to show them? Shoot, I was going to take them and show them something. Well, when I remember it, we'll go back to it. Got another one, Frick?
Yes.
Just before you do that, Frick, so, oh yeah, this is tomorrow is Remembrance Day. So in Canada, November 11th is when we honor our military, both those who have died and those who are alive. And that's why we wear a poppy. So a big salute to all of the veterans out there and active duty. And if you are a vet that's been to one of our classes as one of our scholarships, please say hello. And you just go in the chat below, you do @Ken. Did I say all the whole thing? Just Ken, @Ken.
When they start typing Ken, it should come up.
Okay, @Ken Anthony, and tell us your name and what class you were in so we can give you a big howdy. And a huge thank you. So tomorrow, if anybody's in and around this area, which is St. John, New Brunswick, Al McNeil, who is our tank commander. That's why I have this 105 millimeter tank round. That was Al's first that he fired. And another Strathcona up in nearby, which is another tank commander, actually saw me showing this off one night, and he turned this Sabo round for me at a walnut to put in there. Anyway, Al is a professional piper, or as Luther likes to call it. What does Luther call it? Squeezing the dead cat? When Al does the piping? Bagpipes, for those of you who understand. And there's 3 or 4 of them, or 5 of them, that every November 11th, there is a memorial site in St. John, which is near the ferry landing in Milledgeville. And there are 6, I don't know what you call them, monuments honoring the 6 Canadian soldiers that were killed in one blast in Afghanistan in 2007, I believe was the date. And one of them, his last name was Greenslade, and he actually went to school with Frick. And it was Sergeant, who was in charge?
Lucas?
Sergeant Lucas. Yeah, and there's a long story behind that I got to sometime get Frick, Al to come on and tell. Anyway, so if you're going to be around there, it's going to be somewhere around 1 o'clock. If you are close, if you're watching and you're close and you'd like to be there, me and my family are going to go, and as many people as I can drag in there. You text me and I'll tell you the exact time, because they're piping somewhere else and then they're going there. And he always goes there and takes care of Sergeant Lucas and leaves his poppy on the monument. So we owe a huge debt. Go ahead, Frick, with your question, please.
Bo in the chat says, any tips on handling small boards with a 5 or a 5.5?
Any tips on handling small boards with a 5 or a 5.5? Now, I'm guessing what he's referring to is you're trying to plane something like this. This was going to be the, I'm going to get that out of there before I stab myself. And yes, I have a bit of a limp, but I broke my little toe today playing hockey. If you're watching, but Jack's a vet, so I have to forgive him. So this was going to be a little cherry box. We were doing a video on making a really simple butt-jointed box that had a spline in there. This one didn't end up used. So how would you plane these small pieces with a 5.5? Well, it's doable. I'll show you how I would do it. What you have to do is you got to get your balance just right, meaning all the weight is right here, and at some point you're going to transition so all the weight is back there so that it doesn't rock on you. I made that a little too heavy. I'll back off a little bit. And it's just a matter of getting your weight controlled or the downward force controlled. And this, it gets short like this, it gets even harder. So what I might do is put a bunch of them together so that you, even if I had to plane a small piece, you notice I'm not clamping them, I'm just putting it up against the stop. If I had to plane a couple of small pieces, I might just get some other pieces of the same thickness and use those as a way of helping to balance the plane. That's probably the best tip I can give you. If anything else, they're all going to come out the same thickness. Now, the other thing I would do is when you're dealing with really small pieces, sometimes you can do them right on your shooting board, which would require the purchase of a grip, just so that you can do it right. Now, if that wasn't too tall, you could lay it right up against the, no, that's actually too tall. That piece. Sure, I can do my small pieces without an issue. There's something like that. I can push it right up against the bottom of the plane, and you can control it that way. So, shooting board and having several pieces just to balance your plane, and you should be able to do fine. And of course, you got to practice a little bit so you can get the practice that you want to do is so that when you're planing something, you're transitioning your weight. I'll go through that real quick too, just because sometimes that doesn't get covered. So here I'm dealing with a piece of cherry that 18.5 inches long, 1.75 inches wide. So when I start, first I always put a little bit of magic wax. Oh boy, a lot of product placement tonight. Did you get that? Reduce the friction. So check and see where my blade is. Actually, I know where it was because I just used it. All the weight is right here. Now, as soon as the blade engages the wood, you're going to feel that resistance. And when folks have a tendency to push, they tend to push, and they push down, and then it starts, and it flops up here, and then it jumps, and the blade lands somewhere back here where it starts cutting, which means you've got a section here that didn't get cut. So what you have to do, and I always tell people, use your body, don't use your arms. As soon as you feel that resistance, just tighten everything up, and keeping the plane tight to my body, and then just lean forward with your legs. Now at this stage, I went from just pushing, let me finish this and come back and do this again. Okay, there's all the weight, straight down. This hand is more or less just supporting the weight of the plane back here so it doesn't droop. I'm just using that space between my thumb and my index finger right in there in that rear tote to apply some forward pressure. Feel it engage, tighten everything up. And as you get to about here, you've transitioned to where this one is no longer just pushing forward, it's actually pushing down. And this one isn't just pushing down, it's kind of pushing forward and down. You don't have to put a lot of downward pressure. As you get toward the end of the board, then this hand has to squat more, put more pressure down here. This hand's going to back off and transition into just pushing forward so that when that resistance ends, you don't end up nosediving off the end. You want to keep this plane on the same plane, and you want a plane on that plane. And you just have to keep doing that with a piece of wood a couple hundred times until you no longer have to think about that part. All you're thinking about is just that lovely shaving that's coming up out of the throat of the plane and saying, oh, isn't that wonderful?
So a quick follow-up question. When you were planning those small pieces,
Yeah.
Jeff Schnabb wanted to know if you could get away planing like that if the dogs were round instead of square.
Well, most round dogs have a flat spot on them. And if you're pushing straight on, which is actually a good reason to plane without squeezing it in the bench dogs, because it helps you learn where to push and how to push. So if I start pushing off like this, I'm gonna skew that thing off to the side. So I want to keep everything in that line. I want to keep the force of the plane force of acting on the plane right down through the center of it, so that I can eventually take something like this and plane it on its edge and not knock it over. Okay?
Okay, this one comes from David Peterson.
Hi, David.
He says, your 17-degree chisel has a cutting bevel near 22 degrees. What do you think about grinding the primary bevel to 20 degrees, resulting in a cutting bevel at about 25 degrees?
What's the purpose? I'm not sure.
Frick, there was more context to that. Read the...
Yeah, he says, this would seem to be a compromise between your 17-degree and your 25-degree chisel.
Well, let me just. What are you into? What are you into?
So he was saying that if your regular bench chisels are at 25 degrees, but by the time you add the micro bevels, it's about 30.
Yeah.
And if you applied that same logic to your 17 degree, it would come in at about 22. So
Well,
he was wondering.
hold that thought for a second. You need to know where this came from. So, for those of you who don't know, I work on a lot of pine. It's a beautiful wood. Ages better than anything else. The downside to it is it tends to be very soft, and oftentimes when you're chopping it, it fractures. So you're cutting in between the tails or in between the pins, and you're chopping on this, and big, huge chunks come out. Well, I sharpened my chisels to the point where they were as sharp as I could get them, and it still wouldn't make a difference. And I got thinking one time, I said, I wonder if I changed the primary bevel. So this is a 25-degree primary bevel. That's a 17-degree primary bevel that Jake kind of butchered, actually. Jake, can you go get me a good one that doesn't have that terrible grind on it?
Yeah.
Now, please. So I would grind this back, and in grinding it back, what I mean is I would be lengthening the bevel. So, you'd be back to here, and then I would sharpen it up and try it. And if it didn't work well, then I did it again. And eventually got to a point where when I ground it back to 17 degrees, it really worked well. So here's what I surmise. When you're pushing the chisel into the wood like this, there's a certain amount of pressure that the bevel, back from the cutting edge, is applying on the fibers. And that is pushing down, and what happens is it tends to make these fibers in here collapse, and then underneath where the chisel edge is, no longer has support beneath it, and it bends instead of cutting, and all this support in here is squeezed. So what happens is as this bends under the weight of the chisel, these fibers break somewhere in behind here, inside of course, and then you have this big chunk that comes out. So what I've deduced or deducted, which is the word? Deduced is that by grinding back and having a very, very shallow, very, very acute primary bevel, it eliminates or reduces substantially the amount of pressure being applied by the primary bevel, because instead of sticking out here, the primary bevel is way back here. And that allows these fibers to cut without crushing these fibers below, and you end up with a nice clean cut. Now, I don't sharpen it at 17 degrees just because I want it to be fast, so I don't want to sharpen that whole bevel. So I'm just up 1 or 2 degrees doing my secondary and my tertiary. So I'm really not that high, but the principle still applies. We're talking about right out here at the very tip, which still means that you don't have the pressure that would be applied by the 25-degree bevel. That's actually looks a little bit more than 17. 17 just got labeled because that's where I stopped because I didn't need to go any further. The downside to using this is there's no metal out here. So you start chopping in maple or oak, and that's just going to fold. There's not enough steel there to support the edge. That's where you need the 25-degree. So I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to ask these guys now to explain this again, what his question was.
So what he was saying was, even though a primary bevel on a chisel is 25 degrees, that's not the real cutting angle, right?
Right.
It's closer to 30. Therefore, he was wondering if there could be sort of a hybrid in between where our primary bevel is more like 21 degrees, and then our actual cutting bevel would be like 25.
Yeah, but what's the purpose? What's the end goal? That's the part I'm not getting. Don't know?
No.
Well, explain again. What's the end goal? What are you hoping to achieve by doing that? And then we can address it. Next, Frick. Ken, any vets? Yeah. Well, hold on, Frick. Who do we have?
John Brown, Walter Rao.
John Brown is Canadian.
JB.
Yeah.
JB.
Oh yeah, JB. JB lives in or Macto, just up the river. Wally?
Walter Rao, yeah.
Wally's another Canadian vet up in Ontario. I can't remember the exact town.
Kent Boys.
Wally is one of the few. Wally's actually the only vet we've had that is a recipient of the sacrifice medal, which is the Canadian version of Purple Heart. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember any other sacrifice medals.
Kent Boys is on.
Kent?
Yeah. He's also
Not
on
a
our
combat wounded vet, but Kent's part of our
PHP board.
Purple Heart Project board on the fundraising side that he and Luther and Ken and Jack Lane all work on. That's a separate corporation because it is a registered charity, a 501c3. That's now what all of our fundraising comes through, so we can provide you with receipts.
And Sibby is on.
Sibby, way over in Denmark.
Yeah.
Wow, Sibby.
Andrew Whitaker.
Andrew Whitaker. Oh, I remember Andrew. Andrew was Navy.
No, he's Marine.
Oh, sorry. How far back? To here?
September. He was in September.
He was
with Kyle and
class 25.
Edmar.
Oh, okay. Howdy.
Michael
Oklahoma.
Michael Delvoye.
Yeah, Michael is in California?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin?
You get one right eventually.
Yeah, well, okay, you're checking my memory. We don't know when we go this late. Hi, Michael.
Justin Doherty.
Justin?
Noah. He was in the October class.
Noah. No, I just saw Noah. I just saw Noah's Facebook page. He had something posted. Noah was in our last class.
Boom.
Noah.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Noah Bury.
No, I've actually found Noah's dovetail. I was cleaning out over there, and he left one there, and he said something like, "You'll never find one better than this." I didn't keep it.
Mikhail Miller, May of 23.
Who?
Mikeil, Mikhail.
Oh, Mike.
Mike.
Miller. Mike.
And Kevin Burris is on.
Who's that?
Who's that guy? Yeah.
I'd know that face anywhere. Howdy, Kev. That it? Yep. Okay, next question, Frick.
Justin sees his dovetails up there on the wall.
Justin does?
Yeah, Justin Doherty.
Yeah, I thought I sent him a picture. So it's a good time of any, so if you want to come around here. So we had, this year we had lots of them, but I have 3 that actually gave me their dovetail. And if you take a really close look at that, and I have to give it to Justin, this is probably the best dovetail I've seen. I can't do any better than that. Awesome. Brent was the absolute slowest, but also one of the best. Very difficult to go in there and critique that. And then over here is Omar, and Omar was severely wounded Marine, lost one leg. All the flesh was blown off the other, so he has a brace because he has drop foot otherwise. Lost most part of his hand on his left side. And on this side, they blew all the flesh off in his elbow, so they made him an elbow and took muscle from his back to create that. These 2 fingers didn't work. They were just hung there. And he cranked out that dovetail. It's absolutely awesome.
Can you say hello to Bruce? He's watching.
Bruce who?
Baby Moose.
Oh, little Moosey?
Your grands.
Moosey, you being good? I know that answer without even asking. Get your scooter.
So he has a follow-up.
Okay, here's the follow-up.
He said, where'd it go?
You lost it?
Here, a compromise to getting a sharper chisel without having to go all the way down to 17 degrees. I think he's hoping that there's a height that there's sort of like a sweet spot in between.
Well, you know what? The only way to find out is to try it. Grind it back and see. I love using that 17 degree because it works so well. But the problem is it won't hold up. So yeah, that would stand to reason. I don't know how much lower you can go from 25 and use it in maple or cherry and not have it fold on you, but hey, it's just a chisel. These are just tools. You take care of them, but I mean, experiment too. If it works, it does.
I think it's also like using a rip blade on a table saw and a crosscut.
Where's my good little, oh shoot, we took it upstairs. Can you run up and get it? I don't want to show that short one. This new one that we're going to start cranking up, the 16. Because I got something to show you. That actually came by mistake. Then I have to ask you about this, but I want to just show you what we're doing over here. I told you about this 100 times, so pardon me if you've already seen it. This is a project we're working on right now in the online workshop. This is a tool cabinet. This is the prototype. And I always build a prototype first. So the doors will close. And when it's closed, I've got to figure out a way to lock it. But I'm going to also make it so that the drawers are locked when it's closed. That's yet to come. This one's only made out of plywood, as I mentioned. But we had to do with this to get it figured out where everything goes. 5.5 sits there, shoulder plane sits there, 6-inch combination square sits there. There's a coping saw sitting there, fret saw sits in front of it. What's over here? Oh, there's a mallet that hangs there, a rubber mallet that hangs there. Now, I want to show you what we're doing. So the actual one is being done out of walnut. And it's got through wedge tenons. 3 little drawers in there, the cutest little things you ever saw. There's one of them. Now these have, you got a drawer that deep, it's useless because once you've got one layer of junk, anything you put on top of it hides all the first layer. So we made these little trays, cute little dovetails, made out of aspen and walnut, and that slides in there, just enough movement. Yeah, we did the same thing in each one except the configuration is different. One drawer has 2 compartments, one drawer has 2 long compartments, and then this one has 3 little short ones. And that'll just fit in there. We got a little ring finger pull. You just reach in there to open it. I want the surface nice and clean. Dovetails come through on the surface, and that just pairs up nicely with the wedges. I want to show you what we're doing in the back. So the back, actually, I'll leave them over there. The wings have veneer on the back, but we went through and used walnut veneer. It's birch on the inside because you want it nice and bright in order to see your stuff. So we decided, even though it's going to be the back, we decided to do the back as well. So come over here. So the back panel, which is right over here, and here's what happens when you start messing around with veneer. I mean, this thing is turned into a dish. So what I did is I took a piece of 1/4-inch Baltic birch, and we ran it through our big sander. Actually, I think we used a planer. And we got rid of 2 layers, and then we took 3 pieces of veneer, and we joined them together. You can see the joint lines, and put this in the press. So that's going to give us our nice white interior, but then on the back side, it'll be all walnut. And it's sitting in a rabbet. Now, that sounds real simple, but the problem with a rabbet is you've got to have that meeting. That's got to fit perfectly. If not, it shows. So trying to go through and get this, especially with this piece that literally is turned into a bowl, that was a nightmare. So we put this piece of MDF in here and held it in place with the clamps so that when we eventually put this piece in, which we'll probably shoot tomorrow or Monday, that will lay flat against the MDF so we can glue it all the way around, and the gluing all the way around should hold it nice and not cause it to bow at all. But I need this to resist or to make it flat so that it goes all the way into this corner and all the way into that corner. And then once the glue is dry, we'll take this out and hopefully it'll just be honky-dory. Anyway, so what we were doing today, we chipped off a little piece of wood right there, and the only option was to go in and to put a little half-round inlay in there, and I'm just in the process of cleaning that up. But did we ever get it filmed, Jake? Do we have to redo it? The part we filmed today, the last part we did, and was there volume? Okay. So we fixed this one right here, and we had to do that one right there. So you get to see all the mistakes I make and how we fix them. And I don't do it on purpose. Now, questions? Anyway, if you want to follow, sorry, I didn't get to finish. So what we will eventually do is we'll fill this up with tools, and we're going to allow you, the audience, to donate whatever tool you want, and that'll go in that case, and when it's all filled up, we'll somehow auction it off or raffle it off, and the proceeds will be to the Purple Heart Project. I thought that was a fun way to raise money. Next question, Frick, please.
All right, this one comes from Mr. Masson05, and it's going to be read by grandson number 2, Lincoln.
Maybe a dumb question, but any disadvantage on how to use a slightly cambered blade on the shooting board? Haven't run into an issue, but curious as to your thoughts.
A cambered blade on a shooting board. So let me just explain that a little bit, because not everybody would understand what he just asked. So there's 2 schools of thought out there. There's the David Charlesworth, may he rest in peace, and there's the Ian Kirby. I like the Ian Kirby. David's actually a good friend. So Ian Kirby, when he sharpens his plane blade, he keeps it straight from here to here. Straight is defined as the shortest distance between 2 points. But to avoid having plane tracks as a result of this being straight and this corner literally being square to the side, the last little bit of sharpening on your final stone, you just put a little bit of downward pressure, 3 seconds worth of downward pressure on that corner, followed by 3 seconds of downward pressure on this corner. Only on the 16,000 grit or your final stone. And that just feathers those outside corners enough so that you can blend overlapping passes and not see or feel where they are. So the blade ends up looking like this. Here's your side. There's an exaggerated radius, or some form of radius, and straight across there, and then the same thing occurs on this end. So I call the treatment of these corners feathering. Now what David would do is David would take his blade and he would purposely, I'm going to exaggerate this, but he would put an arc like that on the plane. And his idea was that when you then plane your surface, you're going to have this, and then you're going to overlap like this, and overlap like that, and overlap like that. A little bit of light sanding gets rid of those ridges. That's his way, fine. I don't like it. I don't teach that. Question is, can you effectively use a cambered blade on a shooting board? Well, your shooting board's purpose is to give you nice square and straight edges. And when I say square, I'm talking in two directions. So here's my plane of choice and my shooting board. If you don't know about this, watch the order line light up. Jake developed this product. He pretty much did it himself. How long take you?
13 months.
13 months. Really? That's all? You bragging? I think it took longer than that. This is the RC grip. So it's made out of cast aluminum. There's two pins here and here. There's a main pin. Does require a slight modification to your plane. You got to drill a 1/4 inch diameter hole, 3/16 of an inch deep. It's all very simple to do, but that drops in there like that. And now, instead of trying to somehow hold this plane, can't do it down here. It's very hard on the hands. Ken will tell you, he loves it. I think he's got one of these under his pillow now. He's so in love with it. Allows you to grasp your plane right there at the blade, lots of control. So I'm going in and I'm using this to square and straighten that edge. When I say square, I mean I want to be able to put a square on there and have it square this way. Now, once I've got that done, I'm going to square the end of my board. First thing I have to do is come in here and cut a little chamfer, flip it around. No, I didn't get enough. I need to see a gap. Now I got a bit of a gap right there. That's going to allow me to come in and square the rest of this end. So when I'm done, it's square this way and it's square that way. If you had a blade that had a camber on it, would it matter? Possibly. Certainly if it was any wider, it's going to show. I don't want to have my straight edge sitting on there and rocking like that. So and you may be asking, but Rob, you have the radius on yours. You have the feathering. Well, it is, but it's down below. Doesn't even touch, right? Here's my wood engages my blade. You can see out here in the end. You can see where the wood engages my blade because of this little shelf sitting down here. And I'm typically never way up here. And you actually, I'm never. Most of the material you're using is 1.5 to 3/4 to 1.5 inches. So you stay away from that on both of them. But I would go ahead and continue to use your cambered blade if you want. But I would have a blade prepared with a straight edge for use on my shooting board. These are $39.95. I'm going to do a little commercial, and it's really nifty how it comes. There's a brass pin, that brass pin right there. So when you first get it, you back that brass pin out until it is flush or slightly sunken in. You'll see there's an 1/8 inch hole in the middle. Now these two, what are they called, Jake?
Oval point.
Oval point brass set screws. You're going to have them sticking out just a little bit, not much. You're going to set that on your plane, and you're going to position it exactly where you want it, which is nice and comfortable. When you get it in position, you're going to get an 1/8 inch drill bit. We sell a little kit that has split point drills, 2 of them, 1/4 and an 1/8. And you put that in your drill, and it can be a handheld. And you put that right down through the center of that, holding that. You put it down in the center of that hole. That acts as your guide and allows you to drill a little 1/8 inch pilot hole. And then it's best to go over to your drill press, put your 1/4 inch drill bit in there, and finish the hole. In that little kit, we also send you a little really good quality countersink. And you want to countersink that leading edge just enough so that when you're dropping this, oh, by the way, once you've done that, you've got to come back and reposition that pin so it'll fit in that hole, and it just makes it easy to find. Now, these 2 set screws, because you had them out a little bit, you can now fine-tune it. Somewhere in the process, you may not have got that exactly where you wanted it, but by adjusting those 2 little set screws, you can make it so that there's no slop. There's no slop in the actual handle. And there's a magnet on there as well just to kind of hold it. But it doesn't come off. Great idea. It would be second only in function, improving function to the Adjustar, which if you haven't seen that will reconfigure your plane for you. I was reading through some of the reviews just a couple nights ago, and older guys in their 80s talking about how it now allows them to use their plane because they couldn't manipulate. You get a bit of arthritis in your hand, trying to manipulate that adjuster knob that's normally on a plane, very difficult. And we make those to fit Lee Nielsen, Stanley, Record, Luban, and Wood River. All right, enough commercial. Go Frick, next question.
Next question is from Bill.
Where's Bill?
Shilkitis?
Hi, Bill.
Every time I edge plane two boards for joining, the far end of the joint I'm planing always ends up with a gap when I place them together. Typically I use a number 7. Do you have any advice?
Yeah. So, if you look at the joint, we'll go until we run out of questions. Luther advertised it being an hour, but if there's lots of interest, we'll keep going. So come over here. Jake's not going to do anything tonight? He's going to make you do the whole thing?
No, actually, he's helping out quite well with the chat, so he's
is
taking
he?
Luther's spot.
Oh. A jointer works by having the infeed table and the outfeed table parallel. Now, they can be parallel and not on the same plane. It wouldn't work if they were on the same plane. This one's going to be lower. This cutter head, the top of the cutting circle, is in line or on the same plane as the outfeed table. So as you move your board along the infeed table, the cutter head removes material, and when it gets over to here, that material that has been removed is now taken up by the outfeed table. So instead of it rocking, it's being fully supported here, it's being fully supported there, and you end up coming out with a nice straight edge. Now, I'm telling you that just to explain how a plane works, or try to explain how a plane works. Here we have a flat piece of steel with a blade sticking up about 1/3 to 1/4 of the way distance from the front. So no matter what you do, if you continue to plane a long edge, you are going to create a convex surface. So how do we deal with that? Well, let me get some of this stuff out of the way. Any more vets to say hello to, Ken?
I'm not sure if they're vets or people who've been in the class. Ray Dorr.
Ray Dorr is a Vietnam vet from Louisiana, and he was in our 2019 class.
Yeah.
He was in the class with help me, Jake. Pete Ambrose.
Yeah.
Pete's in Alabama. Pete on?
Pete's one of our best hand-cut miter cutters.
Yeah. Yeah. Pete's an expert.
Yeah, I haven't seen Pete on tonight.
Ray, it's good to see you. Ray used to drive a mule.
Oh, racing.
In Vietnam. And I will never, that image of him coming down the hill, driving his mule, meeting the minesweepers coming up the hill, I'll remember that till the day I die. Bouncing along, just out enjoying himself.
Brent Nelson, the class of 25, is on.
Yeah,
Class
right
25,
there.
I say.
That's Brett's dovetail. Howdy, Brett.
And allegedly Kyle
You still have the title, slowest dovetail. Allegedly, Kyle is?
Yeah.
Kyle Parallel, up in Newfoundland. Howdy, Kyle.
And-
Haven't talked to you in a while.
And Todd and Michelle Osborne from the June
Todd
class.
and Michelle both?
Yeah.
Wow. Howdy, folks. Our one and only husband and wife wounded vet team. Came married, left married. That was a success.
Still married.
Still married. Boy, you deserve a medal, Michelle. All right, so you're planing a piece of lumber on its edge, whether you're using a jack or a jointer. You're eventually going to create a convex surface, meaning, well, let me see if I can do it. I'm not trying to do anything out of the ordinary. At some point, I should be there, okay? So what's that telling me? Well, I have a pivot point here. So how are you going to put a joint? How are you going to join two pieces together under those circumstances? Because they're going to sit there and swivel like this, and you got to try to clamp this, which is going to create a bigger gap over there, and then try to pull that in. Well, that just doesn't work. So what I do, it's not terribly scientific. I'll draw a line on here to help explain. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to take a section out. You see it? I'll back up, take another section out. Now, I start here. When I end, I have to leave the board while still in a forward motion so as not to leave what I call a skin tag there. And now I'm going to come back in here and check, and that's not pivoting anymore, so I'm going to take another one. Almost and almost. Then I'm going to try to take a complete pass, and I may have to take two. And then I'll come back and check. Not pivoting, not pivoting. Then I do the same thing with the other board. And then when I put them together, if any, and now I didn't do this one. I suppose I could, but we got time. So that one's done. We'll do the same thing with this one. I won't bother with the mark. Take a section, back up. Take a section, back up and go a little farther. Stop and check. Come almost all the way back and go almost all the way forward. Take another pass and check. I'm just trying to pivot. And if the plane doesn't pivot, then I know I'm good. Then I'll put these two pieces together. Now when I move it, it shouldn't pivot. Now it does. So that's telling me there's still a little bit of a high spot there. It's not bad, but I can't live with it. So I'm going to come in here and do this again. Take a little section out of the middle. Don't have to do too much. Now I was feeling this because I can feel a transition mark right here, so I don't want that. Now we did on the online workshop, we built our dining room table, which is 10 feet long, and we had to do this with all the joints. And I remember being frustrated the same way. And I'll just keep doing it until I get it.
Quick question from Brent Nelson. Which jointer does Rob recommend, a number 6 or 7?
Okay, hold on. Okay, so I'm got a little bit of a pivot toward the end. And what I want to have happen when I move this, I want it to move like that. So that shows me that somewhere right about here, I got a high spot. Now, could be in there as well, but I'm going to just treat this one. Pull my blade in a little bit, so don't let the solution be worse than the problem. Meaning, if you've got a little tiny issue, then take a little tiny bite. Don't try to take a huge pass, which may only make things worse. Try this again. Make sure there's no debris. Yeah, I could probably live with that. Now, interesting to see if I created any kind of a gap in the middle. I'm going to take my feeler gauge. So that's 1.5 thou. That's the thinnest I have. If I lift that up and put that in there. So I can pull it out, but it's under tension. So I'm thinking, so I've got probably about a 1 thou gap in there, which is fine. Why is it fine? Well, when you glue it up, the outside edges are going to stay nice and tight, and I think you can bow that enough that you could pull that tight. That's what I'm shooting for. That as opposed to a helicopter spinning in the middle. And it takes some work. And that plane is plenty long enough for something like that. But when we were doing the big, the 10-foot table, my goodness, it was a lot of work because you had to go through and do it all by section. I used, I don't know whether I used the 7 or the 8, but the question from Brent was, I want to get a 7 or an 8?
6 or 7 is what he said.
6 or a 7?
Yeah.
Oh, I would go with the 7. Go with the 7 because the sole is 22 inches long. So the longer the jointer, the easier this process is. You're not going to have as much of this going on. It's going to ride off the high points. You still have to be able to go in skillfully and do this. Plane's not going to do it by itself. Even a jointer is going to produce a convex surface. So, is Santa Claus on?
Yeah, so Mrs. Claus said, Rob, I know it's running a little late, but me and Santa just got on. Santa wants to give away $1,000 tonight. Also, we are sending another $2,000 for vets for Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. So what does it mean to give away $1,000? Get her to clarify that. I'm not quite sure.
So she's sending $1,000 tonight and then another $2,000 on Veterans
So we're
Day.
going to so does she want us to give away $1,000 worth of tools? That's what it sounds like. Well, that'll be fun. He'll enjoy that.
I think it's just $1,000 towards the donation total.
Well, can you get clarification if are we giving away $1,000 worth of tools, or is it a $1,000 donation and we're going to give away one prize? And how many do we have on, Frick?
369.
Okay. It's a Friday night. We usually do this on Saturday. Audience might be a little bit small. Anyway, big hello to the Santa Clauses. You'll be busy this time of year.
They wait till after Remembrance Day and Veterans Day.
What?
They wait until after Remembrance Day and Veterans Day to start on Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
You waiting for another question?
No, well, you're going to clarify that
Well,
last comment for me so we can...
Yeah, I might give it a second to come through.
Okay. Hit me with another one.
This one's from Jonathan. He says, what is your method for keeping your thin wood for your boxes from cupping after you size it? Do I need to assemble immediately? Is that the trick to keep it from cupping?
Jonathan, howdy. Well...
Oh, okay, wait. She said $1,000 for tools and $2,000 for the PHP.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Okay, so we'll give away $1,000 worth of tools. You guys are lucky. The
That's like
generosity is unmatched. So here's some small pieces. They've been sitting in my tool tray for probably a month or more, and they've remained nice and flat. They have not cupped or moved. And that has to do with a couple of things. Number one, your wood has to be acclimated to the environment. And I avoid just saying dry because if you're in an area that has 10% relative, the relative humidity is such that your wood furniture and your interior woodwork is going to be 10%, then you don't want 6%, nor do you want 12%. You want 10%. And if it's not absorbing or losing, it's going to stay put. You also don't want to be taking a piece out of the middle of the board. So the best tip is probably this one. If I'm going to build a box and I want sides that are 5/16 of an inch thick, and you can't buy 5/16 of an inch thick material, you're buying 4/4, which is going to yield 3/4. So where am I going to get 5/16? Well, a lot of people think, well, I want to save some material, so I'm going to cut down the middle like that and have two pieces. Well, that's risky. If it's narrow, meaning it's not very wide this way, you can get away with that, quite possibly. Of course, your best bet is to come in and to remove this material and remove this material and do it here where there's not another line. Get rid of the same amount of material on both sides and take that stable 5/16 section in the middle. It's an awful lot of waste, I know, but depending on how wide your board is, that's what you have to do in order to get stable wood. Like I said, these ones aren't bad. Now, you did make a good point. If you mill it and assemble it in that same relatively short period of time, then there's a good chance, the joint will hold it. Here's an example. That dovetail, front and back, will not allow this board to move, meaning it won't cup or bow because of the strength of that joint. you can prevent wood from, you can straighten out wood. That can have a cup and you can straighten it out. What you can't do is you can't prevent it from getting wider or narrower as it changes with the relative humidity in the room. So a good strong corner joint will keep your boards flat. But it's always best to mill it and use it in a relatively short period of time. Now I say that, I've got some material down there that has been milled up for those two bottom drawers, and it's probably been, how many years, Jake? 5, 6, 7?
Easily.
Might even be as many as 10 years. And I'm thinking they're all pretty flat, because when I did this drawer, the last time I did that drawer, I only did that 4, 5, 6 months ago, and that would have been the same situation. That would have been sitting there for a long time. So get yourself a good moisture meter, or if you, I think an even more accurate way is to get yourself a good set of scales. And if you're going to build something, take your pieces before they've been finished to final size and weigh them. And then, and you have to, of course, you have to have an accurate scale. And then weigh them every couple of days. And when the weight starts to fluctuate, go up, go down, go up, go down, then you know you've reached equilibrium. But as long as it's still gaining weight, or as long as it's still losing weight, then it's still in transition. And you don't want to use it until it has. Now I got something else to show you. When are we going to start selling these, Jake?
I don't know.
Willie?
You should ask them which they prefer.
What?
The chisels?
Oh, you want to know that? Okay, so Willie is 82.
Mm-hmm.
Willie's 82. He's a retired fabricator. And he probably could outwork most 40-year-olds. Runs around here like a madman. Does a tremendous amount of work for us. He does all of the, he refabricates all of the bench casters. What am I pointing at? I don't even have them on my bench. All our other bench casters so that they'll stand up. He makes our, he does our, what else does he do? Does he do our half-blind chisels? Jake, talk to me.
No, he doesn't do the half-blind chisels.
No, he modifies the Mox and Vice kits so that you can use a handle on it, and drills and taps them for that. He makes our 1/8-inch chisels. We make our 1/8-inch chisel out of a 1/4-inch chisel, and what we discovered accidentally was it gives you a much wider base to work on when you're preparing it. If you try to doing the back of an 1/8-inch chisel, it has a tendency to roll on you. Add that extra size there, and it works so much better. And when it comes to grinding, because you've got more reference surface to lay against your tool rest. Well, he was doing them a month or so ago, and he screwed up, and he ended up making a 16th inch instead of an 1/8. I thought, wow, you know what? We could use that. I don't know how many times I've wanted to have a little tiny 16th inch chisel to get into something really small. So the question Jake's posing to you is, which would you rather have? And you need to give us some answers so we can.
I can do a poll right on the.
Oh yeah, Rick's going to do a poll. Do you want a small chisel like that, or do you want the chisel to be the full length, like all the other chisels that we have?
The small chisel is what size?
Well, they're all no. We're going to offer a 16th inch width chisel. The question is, do you want it in a short format, or do you want it in the format that it comes all the rest of them, so that when you're putting them back in your tool in your cabinet, they're all going to be the same size. You already know which I favor, which I prefer. Now, while you're doing surveys,
why don't you go ahead and skew those results a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I learned from the best. So there's one more thing we need your help in. We ran out of hats. And we're restocking them.
Hang on. We can only run one poll at a time, right, Frank?
Yeah, answer a question in between the two.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. I want to show you the boxes I'm working on, too.
This one comes from D. Edward Rice.
D. Edward. Howdy.
He says, did you mount that protective gear cabinet through the shiplap back? And if the cabinet was much heavier, would the shiplap still be enough to support the weight?
What's he talking about?
Right there. Your headphones,
Oh, over
gloves.
here?
Yeah. It's mounted by putting screws through the shiplap.
No, it isn't.
It isn't?
No.
Oh, it's
I put a, I call it a stringer. I forget what we call it. I've got a 3/4 inch strip here that's fastened into the sides, and that's taking all the weight. This one on the bottom is just to keep it from pulling off, being leveraged away from the wall. So no, it's not actually, because the shiplap has to be able to move, right? So if you notice where I did, my screw's in the middle. So this piece is in between the two pieces of shiplap on either side. So this piece actually has is wider on the back. And this one is in the center, so all the movement is going to go in between here and here, and here and here. And I wish I could take it off the wall and I'd show you exactly how it is, but that way where the screws are, it's not going to interfere and you're not going to end up getting a split. If I had to put a screw in through here, there's a good chance, and in through here, there's a good chance something would have split at some point. But you have to take all this into account when you're dealing with solid wood. Things are going to move, and if you restrict it, something's going to split. Plywood you don't have to worry about, but solid wood you do. And if you actually examine what I just said, it's not an oxymoron. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but plywood is literally the antithesis of what I just said. So let me show you a couple of boxes we're working on. I've been in the mood lately. So we did this one. This is Pacific Yew with ebony on the top, birch on the bottom, ebony dovetails, fake dovetails. It's actually a mitered joint, glued, and then sawn through, and slivers of ebony put in there. You got to make them really small. And then this one we actually let the hinge come all the way through, which I'm not going to do that again. I don't like that. But I really love this. I really love this yew. It is a beautiful wood to work. Now I haven't finished that one. I haven't put a final finish on it, and I've got to decide what I'm going to do for a catch. I have the option of doing this. This is probably the nicest one I've done. Now this one I made out of walnut and bird's eye, and not realizing that as the walnut aged, you would completely lose sight of the maple because they both lose their color. Now I've refinished this just to show you the difference on how much it oxidizes. Anyway, that's beside the point. So the hinge is bird's eye, as you can see, held short. So this is what I prefer to do, not to take it all the way out to the end. Leave it like that. And then for a latch, I made this. Just another piece of dowel, 2 pieces glued to the bottom, this piece glued to the top, and it gives you a little something to hold on to when you lift it open. Thought that was clever. And here's one I'm working on, and I cut this one a long time ago and decided to finish it. So this is black walnut, or American black walnut on the box, Claro walnut on the top, and that's actually black walnut as well, but it's it looks air dried because it has that reddish color. And so then, same idea. This is going to oxidize, so what color veneer am I going to use to outline the dovetail? And ebony's the only one I could think of that's not going to change color. And I'm going to do a similar hinge. I'll probably make the hinge out of Claro walnut, but I'll stop it short, but it's a little bit tough because you have to then go to the lathe and turn the end of a little dowel segment so that it's round and it meets where the router bit stops. So it's got to be perfect half round. It's challenging but fun. Next, Rick.
Let's do the.
Well,
Do you want to know the results of? Do you want to know the results of the last poll?
Yeah.
With 132 votes, full length chisel had 72%. Small chisel had 27%.
Well, that was a good one.
Rigged.
So introduce.
Rigged. Can we do a recount?
No. No.
That's pretty close.
So we're going to go with one color hat. So we decided to change the color up. So what is this, Jake? Burgundy?
Yeah.
I don't want that one.
Oh, so it's not even a choice.
So
You can't. You're
Just-
undermining
just-
democracy.
I just
here.
said I don't
You're
want
undermining
that one.
democracy.
That's my thing. So how we gonna?
3 shades of green.
So
Just number them. 1, 2, 3, 4.
well, I would call this khaki green. This would be military green.
No.
No, no, you don't think that is
Military would be the furthest. Yeah, that one.
this one?
Or the one right next to it.
No.
You're confusing everybody.
Okay, so dark green, lime, or what color is that?
Say that one is olive. We'll say olive.
Olive.
Yeah.
Olive drab, lime, dark
Lime?
green. Lime. Doesn't that look like lime to you?
No, it's not like
It's not lime.
that's like watered down.
But I know, but I put it as lime in the
Okay.
poll. So
And what's this?
well, I said burgundy.
Pink. The Luther'd vote for that. Good thing he's on the boat. Okay, tell us which one do you think should be the new color for the PHP hat. There's the one we had, the gray one. This is wonderful. We should have these marketing meetings more often. You guys are a big help.
All right, let's do the draws.
Now let's do another question.
I don't have any questions left.
You are lying. Any more vets to say hello to?
Doug Berger is on. I don't know if he was a vet, but he was in the August 22 class.
August 22 class.
Doug from Seattle.
Oh, yeah, Doug is.
He was the one who was buying
Yeah,
hats.
everybody. Speaking of hats, thank
That's
you, Doug.
right. That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Doug kept buying hats and giving them to everybody. Yes, I remember Doug. Anybody else?
No, that's it.
Rick, question?
All right, I got one more question. This one's from Henry
It's gonna be a
Ashburn.
long one.
Might be, yeah. Hi there. I'm planning a wood box with a
What,
cutout.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear his name.
Henry Ashburn.
Hey, Henry. Oh, hold on just 1 second. So there was a fellow that called me just before we went on live, and I was trying to find. I couldn't remember his name. I was trying to find through his phone number, and I'm sure he told me that he was an old tanker. So probably most likely Army, U.S. And he said he was going to be on tonight, and I wanted to give him a big shout out and a big thank you, being as this is Army Remembrance Day weekend. So if you're there and you hear me, would you please tell Ken in the chat your name so I can specific. I would have found if I had a little more time, but we went live, and I was searching down through your order to find out your name. I apologize. The old green box just isn't what it used to be. Okay, now you go ahead, Frank. Would you watch that, Ken, please?
Yeah.
All right, Henry says,
Oh, wait, he's in Texas too, in Denton?
Yeah.
Denton, Texas. Go ahead, Frank. I'll stall. I'll get another hour of it.
Henry says, hi there, planning a wood box with a cutoff lid and a hinge that doesn't extend the full box width. What's your preferred method to get a perfectly round end on the dowel hinge for this application?
Oh, okay, good. So here, I've played with this, Henry, and what you can do is you can use a quarter round bit, and it's a little awkward because you're eating away the material, but you can just ease into that, chuck it up in your drill, and just ease into the, you'd have to leave it long though. How did I do this? That's not how I ended up doing them, but I did experiment with it, and it wasn't bad. So if I would take my section of dowel, and I would be as long as I need it, plus enough to allow for the saw curves. So when it's long like that, then you could chuck it up in your drill. You want a variable speed. And then put your quarter round bit. So when I'm talking about quarter round, I'm talking an 1/8 inch quarter round, which I have. That's a quarter. That wouldn't work. That would work for half. So you have to have an 1/8 inch quarter round. And I'm going right here. So there's my 1/8 inch quarter round. And you're going to put that in there. Now I would probably, it's just going to be guesswork. As that's spinning, I might clamp something in place, right here, which would allow me to then go in like this and approach the bit with that spinning, and you don't want to go in too far, and that would give you a nice half round. If you had your bit so that the top of your table was right there, and if you had a guide clamped in place, that's going to be spinning this way, so you'd want your guide on this side. You would want to have that positioned. You have to figure out the math on where it's going to be in relation to the bit. I think you'd want to be right in the midpoint. And then as that's clamped, you just go in there like that, and that should get you really close. And then it would be just a matter of actually, that's how I did the last one. I chucked it up in the drill, and I used a sanding block. I used a sanding block with 320 paper, and I just shaped that until it fit perfectly. It wasn't nearly as hard. I've tried doing it on the lathe before. Well, that's a lot of work to try to go in there and turn that radius. Doable, but I think this is even faster and maybe even more accurate.
Quick question. Any good sources for chip breaker and frog adjustment screwdrivers?
Any good sources for frog?
For chip breaker.
Well,
and frog
do we still sell ours?
This is a plant.
Oh, who is it?
I'm asking it as a plant. Somebody
Are you-
actually asked the question, but I.
Oh, you're talking about with the new one or the old one?
The new one.
The new one, yeah. So we make these. We offer two. We always have to give you the solution.
Okay, so they're asking about traditional slot screwdriver.
Oh, you just said these.
Well, I know.
Oh,
they
because they're
shouldn't be
going.
using
Oh,
them.
right. Okay. Did we
It's
figure?
too late. We have to.
No, we don't at the end.
Yeah, we do.
No, we
You're
don't.
after- you're
Irvin's
after-
arms are getting tired, I can tell.
Who?
Irvin's arms are getting tired, I can tell.
You shaking her? So this is another idea, Jake's. He's fitting in nicely here. The traditional screws, which he's removed all of mine, I can't even show you, but they use a slot screwdriver, which is historic. And it would chew up that brass screw, and it would slip
Archaic
off.
is the term.
Huh?
Archaic is the term.
Archaic. So we sell a little kit. It's only $11.
Oh,
$12, and it has 3/16 hex drive. And it replaces, and we sell them, the ones that'll fit Luban,
Wood River and
Wood River Luban, Lee Nielsen, and Stanley's.
Stanley Bedrock, Stanley Bailey.
Stanley Bedrock, Stanley Bailey. So it gives you this screw, and if it's a bedrock, it gives you this 3 screws down here that adjust your frog, and what's nice is, this is a ball hex. So you don't have to get straight on. By the way, the other nice thing about the adjustar is you can get at those screws. You don't have to come way around here to try to get around that big knob that used to be in there. You can get in there and get really good grip on that. Same thing with this one that moves your frog forward and back. And it also replaces the screw that holds your blade and chip breaker. And it's just, the fact that it's nice and positive, you can't beat that as opposed to having it slip and slide around on you. So, if you want to up your plane, I'm gonna review this real quick. If you use a plane, I use a plane every day of my life. Love it. Most efficient tool in the shop. But there's 3 things that you can now do that'll make that a whole lot better. You will not want to be without this. Ask Jeff O'Connor about his shooting board grip. He did on his Instagram account. He did a little review of it. That you wouldn't want to be without the adjustar, which now comes in brass, and fits all those same planes, and that screw set, which is going to make your life a whole lot easier when it comes to adjusting. Anything you can do to smooth this out, no pun intended, it's going to pay back to you in less aggravation. In fact, Jeff and I were talking about this. He has another good friend that was here in our class, and he's making a box, and he's been frustrated. And instead of hand tool woodworking being a source of peace and pleasure for him, it was frustration. Well, that can be fixed. Good tools, a little bit of instruction and some practice, and that whole process goes from being frustration to being a sense of absolute relaxation and peace. Peace is the word of the day. We bring peace into people's lives through traditional hand tool woodworking craftsmanship. Got to put a slogan together for that.
Mrs. Claus pointed out to everybody in the chat that Mr. Claus was a vet.
He was Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know whether he wanted me to say that, but yes, sir. Yes, sir. I tip my hat to all of our military men and women, and I say that with all sincerity. Thank you.
Special Forces, U.S. Air Force.
Was he? Wow.
And it was Greg Rice, I think you were talking to.
Greg?
Yeah, he said
Greg?
he was in.
What did he say?
Find it here. An M1A1 tanker.
Wow. That's the Abrams. Greg, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
And the winner of the hat is the dark green.
The dark green?
Yeah.
Really? That one?
Yes.
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah?
Can you see the inside? Oh, yeah. Well, it's a good thing they don't make the decisions.
Huh? I should have worn it and then said, "What do you think?" All
Doesn't
right.
fit over your hair.
How close was it?
It won with 39%. The olive drab got 33. Burgundy got 21, and lime.
Oh, we're gonna have to do an Instagram one too.
Lime got 5.
Really? What did
So
the,
scrap the lime. Scrap the lime one already.
What did the pink get?
Burgundy got 21%.
Okay. Well, we'll take that out and we'll do it.
Is that accounting for all of the people that were just voting?
We'll do an Instagram one. Hey,
Okay, let's do our draw.
yeah. There's something I wanted to say. Now you made me forget it. Shoot. Oh, the hair. Oh, please. Somebody clean out Ottawa so I can get a haircut.
Are you ready?
Yeah, what are we going to give away?
So we had, because we didn't do a draw last time, we had $2,000 worth of donations on the last episode. I don't know the donations tonight because Luther's not with us. He's the
Jake,
only
you
one.
didn't figure it out? Ken, you didn't figure it out?
Luther's the only one that has access to it.
So we have 2 prizes.
Yeah, and then $1,000 worth of tools. Is that what?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So for the 2 prizes, let's give away a Jeff and a Kevin. And then we'll give away, how are we going to split up the tools? Are we just going to do the same thing we did before? We'll do gift certificate. We'll do 4 $250 gift certificates, and then they can buy whatever they want.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Whatever they need. Yeah.
yeah,
All right, we ready?
yeah. So, we got 3 dead cats to give away too. And Moose isn't here tonight. He's got problems in one eye. The lens they put in is real cloudy, so when driving at night is very difficult. In fact, it's so bad that we have to put him on the left wing because he can't see out the eye on that side. He saw well today. He scored.
All right, so 3 dead cats.
3 dead cats. Let's give away 3 dead cats. You know what a dead cat is? We actually have one right here.
All right, first one's going
Just
to.
move. Hold on a second. I could tell them what it is.
Their names on the screen
So
already.
this is a dead cat. It's the most comfortable, warmest, climate-controlled sweater you'll ever get. People love them. Just like a big cat. I don't know how the dead. Well, that's a long story. Who are we giving it to? First one.
First one's going to Sharon Ivy in Idaho.
Hey Sharon, Idaho, good place for a dead cat.
Second one's going to Ken Wilson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Ken, Pittsburgh, go Penguins. You'll want that up there.
And the third winner is Jerry Gillette in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. So 2 to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Jerry, you'll need it too. And I assume you're a Penguins fan as well. All right, let's give away a Jeff O'Connor shave bowl and brush, valued at I think $300. Includes a really nice. Ken, tell them about it.
$350.
Ken has one. What do you think?
Beautiful. Badger
Badger bum hair.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the soap?
Soap's lovely.
Which one's your favorite?
So it was very nice.
I like the balsam one.
Yeah.
Balsam fir.
All right, it's going to Eddie Wolfries in UK.
Eddie. Oh, look, all the way over in the UK. Congratulations, Eddie. You'll enjoy a shave like none other. Oh, Angie. Angie, happy Remembrance Day. Angie and her sister Lynn package up all our t-shirts, and we got a big shipment of t-shirts coming, so you're going to want a new PHP shirt for the holidays. And there's the 3. Oh, yeah, there's one there. One says doing good. One says wood for good, and one said wood is good. I gotta get them dusted off. Angie does all the packaging, so big thank you to her. She's gonna be busy soon. Frick, let's give away one of Kevin's. So Kevin Burris does laser engraving on either granite or slate. I really prefer the slate, so that's what it looks like. He can do anything for you. Whether if you have an animal that you want memorialized, or any date in history that's significant to you. There's another one that has a Canadian frigate on it. Who are we giving that away to?
Let's see. We are giving that away.
Bentley, Striper. No. Who is
That's
it?
going to Jim Gordon in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Hey, Jim, Indianapolis. Make sure you get a hold of Gina. And she'll put you in touch with Kevin so you can get exactly what you want. Okay, now we're going to give away 4 $250 gift certificates, compliments of the Santa Claus people, and their generosity, as I said, has been around a long time. Santa Claus has helped me get PHP off the ground, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
Number 1's going to Mark Corneglio in Washington.
I know Mark. I think I just talked to him recently. I left him a voicemail. Remember, I'm almost positive I called him and placed an order. Congratulations, Mark. It's $250 towards whatever you want.
Number 2's going to Doug Ivy. It just says he's in the U.S. He didn't put a specific spot.
Doug, congratulations.
Number 3 is going to Richard Anderson in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Richard in Waterbury, Connecticut. I was
Yep.
just thinking of something I was going to announce them. Congratulations, Richard.
And last but not least, $250 gift cards going to... Didn't he just win? Dave Gillette? You win again?
Dave won a bid cat sweater?
I don't know, did he?
Where does he
I
live?
thought I remember saying Gillette. Wisconsin.
No.
No, we did Pennsylvania. Okay, so Dave Gillette, congratulations. Wisconsin.
Now, because these are gifts, you can apply that to a 5.5 a plane. We're not selling you a 5.5 plane. These are gifts. So I had permission to be able to do that last time. I'm going to assume I can have permission. So if you want to put that 2.5 or 250 towards a 5.5 that we soup up for you, you're welcome to do that. Yes, Bentley? Did you want to say something? Do you want to come over and make your debut? Lincoln did.
Lincoln read a question.
All right, is that it? Is that everything?
That's everything.
Any last vets to say hi to, Ken?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, we were supposed to be 2 hours. It could advertise an hour. We gave you an hour and a half, so hopefully you'll be happy with that. Appreciate your support. Please, the Rob Cosman Purple Heart Project is our family charity that we started in 2016. And I want to be able to carry this on through my family for as long as they will do it. And it's designed to help bring peace and comfort to those still suffering the negative effects of combat. So if you know any combat wounded vet, put him in touch with us on our website. He can sign up and he can apply to receive a scholarship for next year. We bring in 42, 7 each time, 6 classes. And those seven individuals will have all of their expenses covered, travel, lodging, food, best food you're ever going to get. And not to mention, you'll go home with approximately $4,000 worth of tools. And because of Jack Lane and Jim Rossetti and the Bench Brigade, somebody nearby will build you a bench to our specs and deliver it to you, so you will be all set. Once you leave here, you'll be able to go and practice and be as good as these guys behind me. So we need your help that way. Remember Remembrance Day if you're in Canada, and is it Veterans Day in the United States?
Mhm.
Veterans Day in the United States. Honor those who allow us the freedoms that we enjoy. Thank you, and see you in a couple of weeks, Frick.
Sure, yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
On Saturday.
See you.